Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. Today we are in November, so I think you are coming to see me in Oregon at the Winnookchun's Winds Casino. Something like that. I'm sorry, it'll be in the notes. Today, super excited about my guest. And leave me a 5-star review wherever you can, or you all know, you listen to the podcast, do the nice thing. Thank you. So today, my guest is, you all know I'm a yoga freak. And so this gentleman was a yoga teacher, teaches my favorite yoga dance class. We're going to talk about that. But and at the end of the podcast, we're going to talk about another thing he's doing that is awesome, that has to do with grief. And we all have it, so don't deny it and don't turn it off, because this is a good thing. And he's going to talk to us today about the chakra system and healing. So this is a healing one, folks, and it's all about all different stuff. And so Paul Denniston, like that's a dentist me. That weighs a ton. You have to say that all the time, don't you?
I am not a dentist, but I am a Denniston.
And you don't weigh a ton, so it works out perfect. So, Paul, how did you, let's start with yoga, because is that where you really learned about the chakra system and stuff, or were you into kind of that stuff before then?
I actually touched onto it before as a massage therapist. Oh. And as I was working the muscles and the tissues, there was also a part of me that just organically could connect that I was moving energy around just through touch. And I had, clients who would say, it feels like you're moving my energies. And I started to become more aware of chakras at that point too. And then as I started to become a yoga teacher, I really got a very strong understanding about how to move these, and specifically as a yoga teacher through movement and breath and sound, how powerful that can be. I mean, you can move them through touch, but there's also something about empowering a student to be able to tend to their own energy wheels, which are the chakras, and how to help them to get unstuck.
And so this is Paranormal Karen, so we talk about ghosty things.
Yeah.
And I'm always telling people about protection.
Yes.
About psychic protection, about ghost protection when they're ghost hunting. And I have found yoga to almost be the fail-safe, if I'm using that word correctly, if I know what that means, and I don't. Is the thing that really helps you get grounded, right, and gets everything kind of moving evenly. And it is just, I feel like it's great. It helps me out in my tarot. I don't think I could do my tarot if I didn't go to yoga every day. And I'm there every day.
Mm-hmm, I do.
And massage therapy, to me, all massage therapists get in touch with that, sort of, or the ones that I know, which probably would be connected to the woo-woo anyways, also very psychic. Are you psychic or intuitive, or?
I am very intuitive, and I have been told that I am very psychic. I work with a lot of psychics with the grief work that I do, and I'm in absolute belief that there are spirits that are here and that are that can help us and that can guide us. So absolutely, and a lot of the stuff that I do with grief yoga, which is what I do, is in order for people to maybe, because there's a lot of the times there is a disconnect that happens with people who miss loved ones, and so for grief yoga, a lot of the intention that I do within the practice is about what's the struggle that's weighing heavy in your mind, in your heart, and in your body, how to move it through, that perhaps you can become more spiritually connected with your loved ones, how you can connect with them, not as much in a place of pain, but in more of a place of love.
Wow, this sounds great. Okay, so we're going to get to that. And you tour with your partner.
I do. And my partner is David Kessler, and he's a grief expert. He's written several books on grief and loss. He adapted the stages. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came out with the stages with dying, and then he collaborated with her about making them the stages of grief. And so he wrote 2 books with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on grief and grieving and life lessons. He also wrote another book called Visions, Trips, and Crowded Rooms, Who and What You See Before You Die.
I'll be at your house talking to him.
He also wrote a book with Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Heart, which is all about breakups, divorce, and betrayal. And the newest book that he has coming out is called Finding Meaning. He's worked with the Kubler-Ross Foundation about adding a sixth stage, which after acceptance comes meaning. How can you find meaning after loss?
Which was, you said that in yoga class, and I was like, oh my God. And then I told my woo-woo friends that I was interviewing you, and they found the sixth stage of grief. And everyone goes, what is it? And I go, meaning. And everyone goes, oh, like it was right there.
Well, I think it helps to help people find purpose, or maybe what to do with this loss, because sometimes when you're dealing with deep loss, it's like everything has changed. But I also feel, and especially with the work that I do, which I bring more of a mind-body approach to help lift the spirit, I'm always fascinated about how can you take something that normally is just a devastating thing, and I actually think something beautiful can be created from it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what can be deeply meaningful.
Yeah, it's and there's all kinds of grief.
There's all kinds of grief. There's of course the death of a loved one, but grief can happen through a breakup, a divorce, a betrayal,
a death of a pet,
a loss of a pet. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But grief can also come from, sometimes we grieve. We thought our life was going to happen in a different way, and we have to release maybe the dreams of things that will never be. We have to sometimes even grieve limitations that happen within our body as we get older. I think grief...
I'm not going there.
Yeah.
I'm in complete denial. The Rontowski motto is power through and act like it doesn't hurt.
Power through it. Everything's fine. Keep going. Grief is... I think of grief as disconnection. And that disconnection can happen through many things. And so the reason that you and I both are so drawn to yoga, let's say, is the meaning of what yoga is about union. It's about connection. And so for me, as I was going to yoga classes, before I started this practice of grief yoga, I was just doing it to help process and heal my own grief, my anxiety, my anger. How can I be with it? Because yoga approaches it in such a compassionate space, I do feel like that's a powerful way of being with the disconnect to help find that space of connection of mind and body to lift the spirit. But I also came from a background where I was a movement and a choreographer. And so what I do a little bit with grief yoga is a little different from regular yoga in which I'm blending together movement, breath, and sound. It's not so much about trying to get your body into a physical pretzel and to try to find that physical flexibility, but it's more about emotional liberation, almost using whatever the struggle, the pain, the grief, the anger, the anxiety. What if instead of denying it, what if you used it as fuel for healing and moved it through in powerful ways? That's what the practice.
And that makes so much sense to me, especially right now, because I'm always doing work. I'm always, trying. But this year, I really got into my dark side, my shadow side. Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess I shouldn't say dark like it's bad, because it's not really bad. It's like realization that, we all have the side of us that we don't want to admit that's there. Like I'm bossy, or I'm this, or I'm that. But this year, and I think in the past 5 months, I've been so connected to it in a good way. Like I can see it, and I don't necessarily, there's no more punishing. You know how you punish or you hate yourself, whatever. All that is gone. And I think I've done yoga for 10 years. Over these last few months, I think I've made more advanced flexibility-wise than ever, just by doing the work of, the authentic self, getting to the authentic self. So, and I know people think, and we'll get to chakras in a second, folks, people think that yoga, they say, I'm not very flexible. And I'm like, well, then you should be there, because it's not about that. You know, people are always afraid to go because they think we're all looking like a pretzel, and I'm not.
Well, and I certainly went to yoga to help heal with physical injuries too. I mean, there were areas of my body that were broken, and yoga was the way that I slowly began to strengthen and empower myself to deal with these injuries too.
Wow.
So, and I'm also like very aware of the, you know, you're like, you should go to yoga. One of the things
I should say that.
Stop shooting on yourself. That's what Louise Hay would tell me. She was a friend of mine, and she would say, you know, instead of saying should, you could say you could go to yoga, because I think for me in some places of that darkness, for me is my critical mind that's beating myself up and always saying what I should be doing or shouldn't be doing. So becoming aware of that and just maybe shifting it and saying, well, you know what, I could do this.
Already 8 minutes in, I learned. And I was going through this last week with my friend Brian, and I was saying, we need to stop saying I have to. Because we don't have to do anything.
Do we really have to?
I know.
Do
no,
we?
we don't. We have to work a little. But that's it. Okay, so when we do a yoga class too, it kind of aligns our chakras. Is that how you guys set up the class? Like, I know you all have a way of, you know, a regular yoga class, not the dance one that I love so much because I always feel so free after it. But there's like a warm up, there's a second half that I can't remember the name of. Mm-hmm. So this all kind of is to get us grounded and aligned, correct?
Yeah, like we'll take for instance, I'll go into what these energy points, these chakras are, and like how they can associate with yoga. Okay, so the first chakra, think of it like a root. Think of it like a tree as the roots come down. And like at the beginning of a yoga class, it's all about kind of rooting yourself in the present and really grounding yourself down.
And this one is, I think a lot of my listeners know, but we're going to do it anyways. This one is sort of lower, sort of bikini line.
Think the bikini line. It's actually like the sacral. It's actually like at the bottom of the spine, pelvis. Kind of like think of your root. If I'm standing, I imagine it's coming from my feet. But the chakras and the energy points are actually aligned with the spine. So like take for instance right now as I'm connecting to it, I'm connecting to my sit bones are balanced and rooted in. And so that's the root for me right there.
Okay, and when you say it's connected to you don't see it as just a wheel at that point, you see it as all connected to your legs and everything down.
Well, yeah, like take for instance, if I'm feeling a little bit like overwhelmed and in my mind and all that kind of stuff, as I'm walking throughout the day, what I'll do is I'll maybe even just say to myself, root, and then it'll connect me to my feet, and it'll help to quiet my mind, and it will just get me grounded. Oh. Because I think, a lot of the times we're just kind of stuck up in our head.
I'm daydreaming all the time.
Yeah. I'm in the past, I'm in the future, I'm not present right now. So when you think of that space of root, it's grounding you into the present. And, a lot of these times, sometimes what I think of it is chakras are energy wheels, and they're actually just moving in a natural state. But what can happen is when life throws us curveballs, that's when a disruption happens. So, like, take for instance, like let's say it's a wheel of an eddy, like a water that's just kind of constantly going around in a circle, and an obstacle that can perhaps happen for our first chakra is when our safety and security is thrown out of whack. Ah. It could be you've lost your home, you've had a fire that's happened, you can't afford to pay the bills, something has traumatically happened to your body and to your health. Whatever that...
Get hit on my bike. A couple times I've been hit on my bike, but it's worse than the actual hit. It's the...
Right, your foundation has been rocked. Mm-hmm. And so what we have to do in moments like that is we have to find moments to also ground ourselves, to restore, to allow that sense of safety, to find that space of safety again.
I know this is a weird word, but I'm working on this as I find my negative things, what I find is it all comes from not feeling supported. Is this that same chakra where you'd feel support, like just the universe supports me kind of thing? Or is that up a little higher?
No, I think that you can feel, well, in that way, it's like what if you thought of like the earth is supporting me here?
Right.
Because
Okay.
that's grounding you in. And I mean, you think about they call it Mother Earth, and there is a foundation and a support that's helping us. It's keeping us grounded with gravity, and it's allowing us to be here. So that's why sometimes even just walking in nature also can really connect us down to that foundation, which I think is really
Bare
important.
feet?
Bare feet.
I like to go
absolutely.
through the woods in my socks.
Lovely. I love that.
I love socks. I can't help it. I love socks. Okay, so that's a good. That's our
so
grounding.
and like in yoga, that's our first step in a way is to ground you into the present. To kind of like see that, okay, like let's say I can really be present here, and I'm going to just start to ground myself here in the here and now. Okay, so then the second chakra, which is right below the navel and above the pubic line, is think of it as a space of water, and it's where a lot of creativity can live and breathe. When you think about the space right here, it can come from a place of pleasure, whether that's sex, exactly, or it can come from a place of a creation of a woman creating a child. One of the things that can happen that can disrupt that is if there was a sexual trauma or rape or something like that or incest, that can start to shift it where it becomes, we hold a lot of shame there, and a lot of suppressed emotions can start to live there because.
And I'm going to stop you on shame in a second. But go ahead, finish. Wait.
You're going to stop me on shame.
Because I think there's I always think this is the most complicated chakra.
The second is?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And I know, what's her name? Carolyn Miss says, she says it's a reason where we carry our weapons. So I think she says it's where we carry our wallet, if we have guns, or something like that. But I do think the shame one is very interesting. I'm going to ask you something when you're done there. I jumped way ahead.
No, it's okay. But I mean, I'm just rolling with it. Shame is secrecy. That's really what shame is about. And the only way to heal that sense of shame is to talk about it and to share about it. But it can be very challenging. And so that actually, you're talking about darkness and shame lives on secrecy and darkness. But if you allow yourself to share about it, it actually can shine a light on it to move it through.
And that's why I think authenticity in comedy is very important. I remember this one comic, he's hysterical, Ian Bagg, and in the middle of his act, he just goes, "Hey, who here shit their pants," right? And I'm like, what? And people are dying, and he goes on and on about this, and it was the first time it really hit me. All these people have done that, and he just took the shame out of it.
Right.
And in that moment, I was like, because I'm not really a poopy cocky comic, but I was like, there was something very brilliant about what happened. He just made it okay for everybody.
Yeah.
So as comedians, I always say my job is to make bigger mistakes than you do, so you can laugh at mine and feel better about yours.
Right. But we can relate to it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so that's really the human one. And hang on, hold on to that thought. We're all going to find out. I know you're all like, wait, tell us more about shame, Karen. But first, this commercial break. Who do tarot readers go for tarot readings? They go to Melissa Sonova at melissasonova.com. She gave me the best reading a couple of months ago that is still resonating and helping me out now. She is authentic and to the point. You loved her on the podcast. She is the no BS tarot reader. She also has a tarot class online right now. Check it out. Just watching the promo, you will see how much fun you are going to have while you learn. Also, check out her book, which is always right beside me when I'm doing my readings or my tarot card for me in the morning. It is called Kitchen Table Tarot, and you will love it. Melissa Sonova, that's MELISSACYNOVA. Check her out. So we're still on that orange chakra, creativity.
Yes.
The complicated chakra.
Yes.
So say someone feels a lot of shame, but they are not quite ready to talk about it, or say get a therapist, or something's not moving, what is a good way? Can they put their hand on there and just sort of meditate on it, or is there a way to start it? I mean, I know there's always the good answer is to get it out and get past it, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
If that's not like I don't mean to get over it, but could they be aware that chakra it can aid them in getting rid of it?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the thing about that chakra that I think is important for us is that it helps us to experience pleasure. And so, I mean, we all deserve pleasure. And so I would say a couple of things.
Well, not everyone.
Not everyone. So in a yoga class, like half pigeon is a very big hip opener.
It's a hard one.
Yes. So, I mean, one of those areas that can really help to open up the hips and to just be with it, whatever the feelings that come along, let it move through like waves, because that's the essence of what that second chakra is about. Again, it's about kind of that water. If you're even like, sometimes if you're really wanting to go deeper into it, play something that might feel kind of like sexy that you want to like move your hips to.
Yeah.
And that can bring a space of like dance and freedom within it. And if you feel like I can't do that in front of another person, then you can just do it by yourself. And so I think that's a great way to do it, where you can organically begin to move it.
Oh,
now,
I love that.
another way to do it too, without even movement, is start to embody, like, see something that brings pleasure that you can witness outside of yourself. Maybe that pleasure is watching the sunset, and just embracing the pleasure of that. Maybe it's enjoying a nice piece of chocolate and really allowing yourself to savor and enjoy the pleasure of what that taste is like. That's another way that you can approach that.
Don't eat it in your car while you're driving and yelling at people. That's how I feel out of my eating.
Maybe it will help that.
Or even, I get it, I sit around and sit with Courage and scratch Courage's ears. And I always think,
Which gives him pleasure.
Yes. Unless
Giving Courage pleasure.
He has his own idea. He's like, that's enough. I'm old. That's enough.
That's enough pleasure for me. Leave the old man alone.
Yes, get a treat.
Right.
Get a treat. Well, that's a great idea, just to kind of sit, and instead of sitting in the shame, just sit in something that's pleasurable. Music.
Sure. And, music, absolutely. But also a way to shift the shame that you might be going through is just, can you talk about it? Can you talk about it to a friend, someone that you really trust? What is this that's really causing you shame? That's right there. It's shining a light on it. But that way you're doing it with your voice and with your throat, which can be really challenging. And if you're like, I'm not ready to talk about it, can you just write it out? Maybe write about what this shame is. And then after you're done, you can throw it away and tear it up. But it's moving it through right there. It's shining a light on what is the secrecy that you're trapping down. It's easy for it to get stored right there in the pelvis.
Wow. Okay. And then the other one I have a little bit of a tough time with. I call it the yellow one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is your core. Well, it's interesting. You have a problem with it. You talk about courage. I mean, you named your dog after courage, and that's where the courage lives. So what I look about that is I look about like fire. I look at strength. And I think that's where a lot of that is embodied. I think what can happen in that can get it stuck is a place of doubt. I think also in a place of like beating yourself up, maybe self-esteem. Absolutely. And so ways that we can kind of tend to that is your eating habits too. Like if I certainly was someone who grew up and I would eat my feelings, and I still tend to do that too. And to just be like, or sometimes people would just choose to not eat at all, and that was their solution, and to try to to deal
starve
with
it to death.
Yeah, pretty much. So I definitely think that finding that tapping into your powers, that's exactly where it lives, and what the element is to that is fire, and that's there is a resilience and a strength that lives within all of us, and how important it is to tap into that, and how to even say, I have been through one of some of the most challenging things, and yet I'm still here. and so there's a power to recognize within that space.
Now, that's what I didn't get in the beginning. When you said earth was the bottom one, then water is the orange one. And yellow. And by the way, folks, these colors go up just like the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. Mm-hmm. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Yes.
As they go up. So, and that it is, with me, it is doubt with that one. But that's funny that's fire. And I know this is a weird connection.
Right.
But does acid reflux, that would be too much fire, right? Would it be connected to that chakra, maybe?
I think so. I could absolutely see that. Yeah. With stomach and digestion issues. And I think that sometimes also unresolved anger can live there too. Mm-hmm. And anger that we might be afraid to let out, and so then it just gets kind of like bouldering, and resentments can get stuck, which
fire.
Which can that acid reflux can absolutely start to like simmer that. So I think that I mean, like within my grief yoga classes, a lot of things that I have them do is that I want them to breathe all the way down, but also use like powerful sound and breath, like to help to kind of like tap them into almost like that warrior roar that they have.
Right.
So yeah.
And we do that a lot in yoga, there's a couple of yoga exercises we do that just now I get. Like, you do a lot of them and you don't really get it, mm-hmm. but now I get it, and that is when we like go, and we hit our ribs and with our elbows, we pull it in.
Yeah.
That is so releasing. Okay, so that's all kind of the warrior, the doubt, the self-esteem, mm-hmm. the confidence, all in that yellow mm-hmm. chakra.
Yes.
So now
Fire.
Now, have you ever heard that thing? I can't believe you haven't, because this is your bag, where you stand like a superhero for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And tell the folks this. You stand like a superhero, right?
So yeah, if you're feeling a sense of like insecurity it's where you place with fists together, and you place your hands on your hips with your elbows out. It's a very strong
Superman
posture. It's a Superman pose, yes, or Supergirl, and it's that sense of. And so I think what it does is it helps you to, even if you're not feeling confident, it's already you're embodying it, and so it begins to shift your mind.
Yeah, something like that. And I thought it was like 5 minutes or whatever. Probably it can work faster, but that's a fascinating mm-hmm.
Thing.
Okay, so fire. So now heart.
Heart, yes.
Uh-oh.
I think, that what I think of with heart is love. And I feel like the hands are expressions of the love. And I think that what can happen that can disrupt it is when our heart can get broken, when disconnections happen, when we feel betrayal, when a loved one dies, when
we feel betrayed when a loved one dies, and it's not really sometimes I think you have a feeling like that and you can't compute. Well, they didn't die on purpose, but kind of that kind of thing can get very twisted.
Or also like, oh my gosh, what if I would have done this, or I should have done this, and maybe I should have been more loving and caring to them.
There's that should have again.
That shoulds. Stop shutting on me. But I think, the heart space, we talk about the resilience. The heart is a very resilient thing too. That I remember in a therapy session that I had one time, as I was trying to deal with my heart, I actually drew my heart, and I started to draw like little cracks where I felt like my heart was broken. And the therapist recommended, he's like, every time you see a crack or someplace that's broken, identify what it was back in your life. This is, when this person left. This is, this is when I felt bullied, or, identify each of these things of where the crack is. And it was so helpful for me to do that, because then as I saw it and I saw how wounded and broken I felt like my heart was, it allowed me also the space to just start to color it in, almost like it was a Band-Aid. That I started to even just say, what, even though, this person left, I still am thankful for, how they enriched my life. And even though I was bullied at a time in my life, I'm still here and I'm still moving forward. And for me, that was healing to help with my heart. Now, within the chakra-based thing, it really embodies a space of air, and it helps to bring a sense of like flow. And you think about sometimes when we resist, we don't want change to happen, and we grasp onto it really tightly, and I'm just grasping my fists here. But sometimes the important thing is that we also have to kind of soften the grip, almost, and feel that sense of letting go and air. And it doesn't mean that sometimes it will always let go. And sometimes within death, it just means the changing of a relationship. They might not be here physically here, but maybe they'll be here, in spiritual form. And maybe now they'll be one of your angels that will help guide you. So the heart is...
Is that where we carry grief, in the heart chakra?
Yes. The shadow aspect of the chakra within the heart is grief, unresolved grief. And we all carry it.
Now, I used to...
And what heals it is through tears. Oh. Tears are the liquid form to help heal the heart. And I know that we feel like we want to perhaps try to resist it, but the tears actually help to purify the heart if we allow ourselves to go there.
Wow.
And sometimes I'll work with people too where they're like, I'm afraid I can't go into the sadness or the crying.
Or it'll be too big.
It'll be too big and I'll never be able to come out. But the truth is that you're already holding on to so much pain. The pain lives within you. All you're doing when you give yourself the space to grieve is you're just allowing it to move through. Otherwise, you're just keeping it suppressed inside of you, and it just, becomes bitterness and hurt and dis-ease. So it's really about allowing it to move through. And tapping into that third chakra again, sometimes it means also releasing the anger and the hurt, to tap into that fire. But instead of allowing it, in a grief yoga class with what I do, is we take moments where we even beat on a pillow and use that primal scream to release the anger. So it's really about how can you, in the grief yoga classes, how can you channel these areas to allow them to move through, using them as fuel.
Right. In tarot, the Three of Swords is a heart with three swords through it, which obviously it's a card because it looks awful and it's all gray. But the thing that people need to remember about that card is that heartbreak never travels alone. It always travels with relief. So they're always together if you access, like you were saying. Now, I used to have, my friend said lungs are where you carry grief, which I guess would still be that chakra. Mm-hmm. But I used to, only when I would wake up, right across, I would say this is my collarbone, straight across, I would wake up and it would be so heavy there. Mm-hmm. And it's not pain, it's discomfort or something like that. Yeah. And now it almost never happens. But for years, I almost wondered if I had lung cancer because it would wake up so heavy. Now, would that be unprocessed grief?
Yeah, I think so. I remember for me before I was doing this work too, it's I would feel chest pains, and it was it felt like, I think your heart just feels so heavy, and what can also, you're talking about oxygen and air. So what happens when we're feeling grief is our breath becomes very shallow, and we breathe particularly just right into the heart space, and it's not. The thing that we do both within yoga or within grief yoga is to breathe all the way down into the belly. Now, what can happen in that space then is you're probably going to start to feel more. You're going to feel unsuppressed emotions that you're kind of holding on to. But it allows you to deepen the breath, which will actually quiet the mind more. But it will allow a lot of the subconscious things that the body's holding on to, it just allows it to move through. And
this is a weird question, but how long? That happens immediately? Do some people do it for 20 minutes?
Breathing down from the belly?
Yeah, because that's
as much as you
one
can.
Yeah, I had a childhood. I always say my childhood was like white knuckle, and my child, like, you ever been scared and you go, oh, and then you go, whew. I always feel like my whole childhood was, oh, and now my adulthood is like, whew.
Right.
And I feel like even because I meditate every day and I change it up every once in a while, but people do not realize how hard it is to actually do that breath where you build up the stomach, then the middle, then the lungs, like to do that whole breathing like that.
Yes.
And it can almost be upsetting or make you dizzy, or it can be very hard to do.
Yes. I'm a breathwork teacher, which soul breathwork, back in the 70s, they called it rebirthing. But it's really the 3-part breath system is breathing from the belly, inhale from the belly, inhale from the heart, and then exhale out the mouth. But it's really getting to a lot of the subconscious things that are happening. But when you even just did that, where you're like, I just, even as I did it, I'm feeling it all up in my throat. Right? And it kind of puts the body a little bit in shock. But then when you exhale, it allows the body to relax a little bit. So in order for us to kind of move through the shock and to get to some of the deeper emotions, if you can consciously see, like, oh, I'm really just breathing in a very shallow space. Can I breathe all the way into the belly? And sometimes I'll even place my hand on my belly and just see if I can observe my belly, inflating like a balloon, and then as I exhale, allowing it to deflate. It just helps me to get grounded and to relax the body.
That's a good. I actually will have my hand on my stomach when I do that. And, but since you're a breath coach, just to go off to the side for a second, I cannot tell you why. I don't know why I never heard these explained like earth, air, fire, but this is so helpful. So I just teach people, and folks, if you want this meditation, it's on my Card of the Day YouTube, and it's just called Panic Attack, because this is what I would do with a panic attack. Close one nostril, inhale up for 4 with the other, block both of them for 4, and then exhale the other side for 8.
Oh.
And then I would flip it while this one was 8, go up for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 8, up for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 8. However that is.
Alternate nostril breathing.
Alternate nostril breathing. That sounds so much better than panic attack.
That's exactly what it is. And it's balancing.
Okay.
Both with that breath, it's balancing it.
Okay, because that has been like a lifesaver.
And if you're wanting to go further within, so the left nostril is really it's lunar, it's about calming the body down. And the right nostril is more of the sun, and it's supposed to energize you more.
Oh.
So let's say if you're feeling like panicked or feeling overwhelmed, if you just close the right nostril and just breathe in and out through the left nostril, it will actually calm you emotionally. If you are feeling like, I need a burst of energy, I need to I'm feeling like uninspired, if you close the left nostril and just breathe in and out through the right nostril, it will give you a burst of energy. What you are doing within the alternate nostril breathing is you are bringing balance to both.
Wow. You're just full of surprises, Paul.
I'm smart.
You are. Where are you from, by the way? Where's home?
I'm originally from Texas.
Oh, Texas.
Yes,
oh, my goodness.
Yes.
I have a joke about Texas.
Do you tell me?
I say, if you haven't been to Texas, they have a saying there. It goes, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes and someone will shoot you.
Oh.
Oh, my God. Time is flying with you. Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. We'll move up to the throat. Psychic medium and buddy of mine, Terry Huberman, is with me today. Terry, you've given me so many great readings and healings, and now you've got everything together in one package. Tell me about that.
I sure do. So this package has energy healings, readings, and coaching.
Coaching, that's the best. And people, they buy the package. You give them coaching once a week?
Yeah, so we meet online once a week, and in between, there's support as well.
And who would this be for?
This is really for folks who are in indecision, needing to get into their intuition because they're blocked or stuck. They need to move forward. And so we explore what the root causes of the problems are.
And helps them get out of their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. And what can they expect from this?
Sure. So moving from anxiousness to confidence, accessing their freedom, joy, and security, and really being in alignment with themselves so they have that clear direction, so they know, aha, this is what I need to do next to reach my goals.
So now there's something that's free so people can talk to you and see if this is for them.
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, terryhuberman.com, there is a page where you can click, and it's the intuitive coaching package. And there is a button there that says schedule a free call. So you go ahead, schedule it. We'll get on a call and you can learn more about this program, and we'll see if this is a good fit for you or not.
See if there's chemistry.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an odd date.
terryhuberman.com, TerrieHuberman. I highly recommend it, folks. Okay, so we're moving up to the throat chakra, and I want to be sure that we might, if we go a little long, I just want to be sure everyone gets your information about the grief stuff, because I think a lot of you out on the road are sitting there thinking this could be a good thing, and you're doing a whole tour, so we're going to talk about that.
Great.
And the Paul's any information that Paul wants you to see. I said I was going to say you get Paul's email, but I was like, wait a minute, okay.
My website is griefyoga.com.
Great.
Griefyoga.com, and on social media you can catch me with Grief Yoga. And on griefyoga.com there's a lot of like free classes that you can access to. That again, the practice is not so much about physical flexibility, but more about whatever the emotional struggle is, using movement, breath, and sound to help to transform the struggle in empowering ways to help open your heart.
And there's probably some fun stuff there too. No, I'm just kidding. I couldn't figure out where I was going. That will be in the show notes, folks, so you can go and click on that. And I can't wait to hear about the tour. Okay, so the throat.
The throat, yes.
Are we still in air?
Well, at this point now, it's really about expression. And so it can be whether I think of the throat as a combination of both water and air and earth and fire. But it's about how do you express yourself. You know, whether it's by what you are wearing today, how you express yourself with your words, how you express with how you decorate. It's really all about sharing and expressing who you are. So that's really what it is about, and it's about, it's the through the throat. I think that again, a lot of the times within grief yoga, I use sound and the vibration of the voice to help to open up the throat, because sometimes, a lot of the times, we might not be able to articulate what our pain and struggle is, but we're looking for a way for it to move through. And so even just by as I do that from my belly, it's opening up the throat space. So it's really, it's about expressing yourself.
It's very interesting because as for a comedian and a tarot reader and somebody that uses their voice for everything, sometimes I have some trouble with this area.
Sure.
And it's funny that you said expressing yourself and how you dress, because I kind of dress up for shows. Sometimes I don't, and I joke about it. But so connect that throat to the third one, and that's where I get my, I don't think putting myself together, I do it, but that's a very interesting thing of how you present yourself is how you're expressing yourself.
Right.
My friend April always talks about that. It's sort of a statement. So I'm trying to get that. But would I focus on this chakra or the two together? It's really good to have them all balanced.
I love that. And I have got to tell you, I have felt definitely blocked within my throat chakra for so long. And I think part of that stemmed from just because I was gay growing up in Texas. And so I couldn't really share and express who I was because I was afraid somebody would shoot me. Things have changed, thankfully. But okay, so there are many ways. So it's interesting how you said that you want to open up your throat, but you also recognize that your third chakra can sometimes,
say just put on whatever's there.
Well, think about what is a chakra. One of the ways that you can help with expressing yourself is what is the chakra that you feel really strong about that you can perhaps tap into to help. Like take for instance, for me, I always knew that I felt like my heart was always real strong. And so I was like, you know what, just tap into that and allow myself to use the heart to express and to help open up the throat.
Okay.
At this point now, it's also about, what courage can I tap into here too? Or even allow myself to like, what pleasure do I need to share about who I am also? So if you're looking for ways to help that expression, go to one of the chakras that you feel like are one of your strong points and allow yourself to tap into that. And then to push you on, to help you with your edge, which we teach about that in yoga. It's like find your edge where you're not experiencing pain, but you're just helping yourself to evolve and grow. What's a chakra that you're not needing to work on? And like, take for instance, if it's that second chakra and you need to feel like I need to express some of that to help move through the pain, can you talk about it? Can you share about it through the throat? And that will actually help it too.
See, because I always think that I really have a issue with I don't care what I look like, and I have to work at it. And it's so funny because it goes back to how are you presenting yourself to the world, which is, I think that always goes to the yellow chakra. And for those of you who can't see, Paul came in a tuxedo. So,
That's how I express myself, and a top hat. I'm going to do a little tap dance in a moment.
And, so that's great to figure out that connected to the other chakras. That's fantastic.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
So now my favorite, my overactive third eye.
You're overactive. Boy, that third eye is going, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's funny. Well, doing tarot all day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
Well, the third eye I think of as intuition. I think of the third eye, even just like, when you have an idea and the light bulb goes off in your head, think of that right there where that third eye lives. Sometimes like even Oprah, it's her aha moment, you know, and it's just like when there's a direct connection to insight, because you think of like intuition, which is where the third eye lives. I think of intuition as inner teacher, and we have that within all of us. There is an inner teacher and a wise self that we can connect to. One of the ways that I personally try to like tap into my third eye is to connect to my future self who is happier and wiser and more content than I am, and to allow that future self to speak and say, what wisdom can you share with me in this time, in this, what would you offer? And so it's almost like I'm not looking for the answers outside of myself, because it already lives within, and I'm just tapping into that.
Wow, that's this is probably. Do you think the chakras go straight through? I was taught that they go straight through.
They go up and down.
Up and down, but I mean, so because I was thinking they always had this theory that we had an eye on the back of our head at one point.
Yeah, I can see that too. Sure, why not?
Yeah, and so I always thought that
they're energy points. So I mean, up and down, back and forth. You want
to know something interesting? So in ghost hunting, we have something. Sometimes there's something called a walk-in. And that is where a spirit actually walks into a person and kind of takes them over. And it's not a possession, and it's not for long. But the entrance point is almost always right back where the throat chakra is. Like someone in the group will say, well, something just scratched the back of my neck. And next thing you know, weirdness happens. But I always thought that was interesting in that I wonder why it's that chakra. It just, I guess there's no answer, but I always think somebody always feels
like a tapping, like on the back of the throat,
on the back of the neck, and it was something trying to get in.
I wonder if you could, if you feel that kind of like tapping on the back, and you're like wondering what it is, since it's your throat, can you?
Block
it. What do you block it, or do you allow it to express what it needs to?
No, well, not on a ghost hunt.
Not in a
Otherwise,
ghost hunt.
yes, because that would be another entity. It can happen for short periods of time. I always go to creepy right away. I always say I'm going to go to creepy, but people have they come up speaking differently, and it's a spirit that can enter. They can't stay for long because it takes a lot of energy, but they come through and they can sort of. Then you got two souls in the wrong body.
I always sometimes like when I used to when I went to Burning Man many times, and it would get so overwhelming for me at times because there was just so energetically so much that one of the things that helps me is to provide myself a little protective bubble.
Exactly.
And in that space of that bubble, I allow myself to say, nothing can come into this bubble that is not of love and light. And so in that space, when I'm feeling like really open and vulnerable, that is the only thing that can come in. And so that helps me.
And so many people that listen to my show are empaths that have trouble with that. So that's a really good way. And it's so funny because I have a little group called Tarot Card of the Day on Facebook. So every day I take a card and I find a mantra. And the one that I felt today was about it was about the Lover's card, and that the Lover's card is really the triangle of the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and super conscious. And when all three are working incorrect, that is perfect love. So in other words, if you're, and that came up today when I was doing all this work on jealousy, was what I was kind of like, okay, let's find out about jealousy. Let's get into it. And one of the things, I'm way off on a tangent now, because I just had this in my mind. One of the things I actually asked a friend of mine about is if all three of these are working, you really can't be compromised by anything. So in other words, when all these three are working, you are your authentic self. So if your boss yells at you, it's not as big. You know how people speak to everyone differently? I speak to my mom like that. I speak to my boyfriend like that. I speak to my friend like that. When all those three are in unison, you are your authentic self for all of that. And it actually, for my ghost hunting friends, it makes something they can't penetrate you. A negative entity or an attachment is looking for jealousy, self-hatred. That's why if something invades a house, the first thing you do is try to split everybody in the house, get them against each other. I didn't use that. Yes, you did. Who left that out? I didn't. They start to fight. So when you get all these things in unison and your bubble or your energy, that really does protect you from everything.
Yes. I love that.
Except a taser. Probably not a taser. But yeah, so okay, so that your third eye. So
yeah, totally. And I love what you also had to say too about how a lot of your listeners are they're empaths, and I can totally recognize that too. I found that also one of the traps that happened as an empath for me was as I lost a sense of who I was because I got so wrapped up into what the other person was feeling, and then I lost a sense of my own self. And so one of the things that I try to tap into is when I catch myself losing it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so connected to maybe their hurt or their pain or their struggle. I get back grounded in my own body and saying, where does this live in my own body? Where does it exist in my own experience? And how can I find the companion to empathy is compassion. It's almost like they're brother and sister. So I think compassion allows you to not lose your sense of self, though. You can still be caring and kind and compassionate, but you don't lose and give away all of your energy.
I love that. So empathy is when you're sort of two merged, and compassion is when you're just sort of...
I'm present and I'm caring and I'm connected, but I have not lost my sense of self.
Great.
And I think that it can help because if I'm really empathetic towards where you're at, and then we're both kind of stuck in a ditch, nobody is the light keeper to help kind of like take us out of the ditch.
Nobody's holding the space.
Nobody's holding the space.
Wow.
So I went for years being an empath and actually found that to be a very helpful thing. And I'm saying it's great to be an empath, and I'm all for it. But I also don't want you to lose your power in it, and nor do I want you to lose your sense of self. So when you start to feel that way, how can you maybe find your edge back into just being compassionate and getting back where does this struggle or this pain live within my body, and to not lose that sense of self.
And that's funny because sometimes it is just asking, is this me or you? Like, is it my feelings or their feelings? Like, kind of
totally.
separating.
Sure.
Yeah. And okay, so crown.
Crown is when crown is on the top of the head. Crown is, think of a lotus that kind of blossoms towards the sun. When all of the chakras that are aligning the spine are in alignment, that's when the crown will begin to blossom and open. They think of crown closest to God, highest. That is, and you think about it within a lotus too. The only way that a lotus can grow is through the mud and the dirt and the foundation. And that lotus needs to move it through the water. It needs to find a sense of strength and persistence to keep moving up up towards the light, to where once it finally starts to blossom and open itself up, all of the chakras then are in alignment. And so it really goes to show how each of these energy points are important for us to find that alignment, to allow ourselves, the crown chakra, to blossom and open up.
And my friend has a real easy visual meditation where she pictures each chakra with a little vacuum pulling out what you don't need, go up one after the other, and then through the crown it drops in the light to fill the space.
I love that.
Yeah, isn't it?
And as a Kundalini...
And I hate to vacuum.
I used to love to vacuum. My parents, I asked for, at 12 years old, they asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I'm like, I want a vacuum cleaner.
That's hysterical.
And I would just vacuum at home. That was my gift.
Oh my God, your mother must have loved it.
She loved it.
My friend's a physical therapist, so she says vacuuming causes sciatica.
Oh,
it's a weird
well,
movement.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's why we're all in yoga.
Well, I also think about in Kundalini, they also say, try to allow yourself to feel like you are an open channel, and like a vessel of water is flowing through you, and to try to see where there might be obstacles and see if you can just start to open it. Whether it's a vacuum that kind of can take away some of the mold and the gook or whatever, but it's and that's certainly what I try to do. Some days it's not as easy, but it's about just allowing yourself to kind of become a flowing being. And I find that kind of in doing that, your creativity can grow, a sense of ease can happen, and to recognize too that the flow can happen sometimes in a very easy way, and sometimes it can be a powerful way, and how amazing is that?
And some of us are so often, I always feel like we're gripping things, whether it's we're gripping what we want to be in the future, or we're gripping not letting go of that or something. And I feel like whenever I feel that sensation, it's like you got to let that go.
Right. It's a sense of controlling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. But I also feel like even when people are manifesting or whatever they're trying to do, they don't let go of it. And a lot of them think they're letting go. A lot of people think, well, okay, I'm all done with that, I'm going to let it go, but they keep thinking about it and thinking,
obsessing about it.
Yeah, I wanted a ghost hunting show for years, and then one day I woke up and I was like, I don't want to sit in a dark place with unfunny people for weeks at a time. And then because nobody wanted to do it funny, and as soon as I let that go, the calls started coming in, can you make this, can you do this? And I was kind of like, no, I don't know if I, you know what I mean? It was kind of only if we do it my way.
Nice.
And now I know I have this great guy that's like, we'll do it your way. And I was like, all right. So nice. You got to let it go.
Totally.
Yeah. So I have a question about Kundalini yoga.
Sure.
Do you teach Kundalini?
I do.
Oh my God.
Well, with grief yoga, I'm bringing all of these yogas in together, whether it's hatha or Kundalini or restorative yoga or laughter yoga or chakra dance. I mean, they're all blending into one practice. So Kundalini yoga is powerful. It's really about elevation.
And if you go to a Kundalini yoga class and you don't know what you're getting into, because a long time ago, when I wasn't as woke, Paul, I went to one, and because I'm a very physically active, I ride my bike to yoga, I ride home, then at night I walk. That's a way I feel grounded. I walk to the store every night just to get in there. I don't have to constantly be moving, but I enjoy.
I love movement.
Yes. So I went to Kundalini class, and it's a lot of breathing. It's almost all breathing.
Yes.
There's not as much exercise to it, which doesn't mean it's bad. But now I'm at the point where I think now I could appreciate and I should go back.
Well, it's powerful because you are channeling the breath in powerful ways. Breath of fire, which is equal inhalation and exhalation through the nose. It's like a powerful, I call it like a breath espresso shot. And it really, actually, the intention within Kundalini yoga is really to allow the chakras to be in alignment and moves them through in a much more powerful way. More than, let's say, like hatha yoga can do, because it's using the breath in very powerful ways.
And it's only the breath, that is where you can get dizzy, or you can, you know what I mean? Things can happen in that, sorry, I think there's a thing on my face. No one on the podcast cares. But they know I just talk through. And also, when I, because a lot of my people, we were into ayahuasca and sort of that kind of stuff. There is actually a Kundalini breathing. What is it called? Heliotropic, something like that, that can do the same thing, can release the DMT.
Right. Okay.
Is that you haven't done that?
I haven't done that.
You haven't had any purple bunnies talking to you through the
when I was on mushrooms a few years ago.
There you
but
go.
It's been a while.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
I was
about.
treading lightly, but that's all right. Yeah, okay, we're all in. But that's something I have to look that up on the internet, because I know somebody that actually did mushrooms and then a couple weeks later did the breathing and had the same effect.
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, yeah. And the old internet's ready there to teach me. Okay, so that's the chakra system. So, so folks, I think that's a good way to get a start on it, get help with it, and understand what's going on. So now let's talk about your tour and what's going on with your, perfect timing. Tell me about your tour. Tell me what couple of cities you're going to, where people can find it, what they can expect when they go, let's give it all out there.
Yeah, I mean, starting in November 2019, I'll be traveling with David Kessler, and we're going to be doing either workshops together. Sometimes he's going to be going. We teach also to therapists and counselors, and to also just people who are grieving or helping professionals who are looking to bring more of this practice to help with their clients. We're basically doing a 30-city tour from November to March. And I think even in March, if you're a yoga teacher and you're wanting to go deeper into grief yoga, I have a teacher training that's happening in Esalen in March. We do workshops that are all different types, whether it's about finding meaning, whether it's about healing after a breakup, divorce, or betrayal.
So the person that got a divorce and just can't get out of the rut,
Yes.
This would be good for them.
Absolutely. And for me, hearing that, what I would say is I would tend to work on a lot of anger stuff with them. I would say, because that's going to help you tap into your fire. That's going to help you to shift it and to move it. And if it was someone who is going through a breakup, I would say, if you're wanting to do a body-based thing too, on griefyoga.com, there's a free breakup class that we tap right into betrayal or hurt, or where you're feeling stuck, and it's like a 10-minute class to just give you a little bit of a shift.
And you have everybody sign up for his email list on griefyoga.com.
Yeah, there's many things to tap into, whether it's a chair class or whether you're wanting to just have specific tools to help out, or whether, there's a lot of free stuff on there.
So if you're feeling bad or you're depressed or you're in a rut, this is a great thing.
Totally.
Are you going to New Jersey?
We're going to New York, and we're going to Boston, and I think we are going to New Jersey. I think it's like right in November. Yeah.
My friend Jess has a company called Held Massage, and it's grief massage.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I'll let her know where you're coming and connect and whatever.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. She's awesome. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, of course.
This was terrific.
Thanks.
And folks, you can find Paul, griefyoga.com. It's in the notes. Hopefully I will see you guys. Like I've said before, I'm backing up all my episodes, so we could be in 2020, so you can go see me at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club in Las Vegas, or I just booked a weekend. Oh, everybody, upstate Washington, I'm going to be hosting I'm hosting something with a lot of female comedians. It's going to be great. I'll get you more details on that. Thanks, everybody. If you can give me a review wherever you are, help people find the podcast. Thanks to Mike Flynn at Uno Rising Media. And thank you to Paul Denniston.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.